So in this video, we're going to talk about flows and flow actions. In order to get to our flow action, I'm going to go ahead and click on this Configure Process button. From here, I'm going to click on Open Process. And then from here, I'm going to either right-click Open Flow Action or double-click the connector and open flow action from here. So some quick basics about flow actions. Each assignment needs to have a flow action. That is what defines the UI that you see on that assignment. It defines the validation for that assignment. It defines what happens before and after a user launches that assignment. And it also helps with some security and some local actions for that assignment. So I'll go over a few of those in this video. And to start, I'm going to open up the flow action. So here we'll see some layouts. We'll see our validation tab, we'll see our actions tab, our security tab. But for starters, we're going to focus on the layout, validation, and action. So in our layout, we will have the current page context, the class that it applies to, and the section that will appear when the user opens the assignment. So I'm going to go ahead and click into the section. If you see, our fields are here. I already went ahead and made this required. You can also make this disabled. You can make this invisible. Helper text is always great for ADA compliance. Placeholder, default value. Within the presentation tab, you have a lot more options here as well. If there's a minimum or maximum amount of characters that a field should contain, here's a great way to, put that limit. You can do actions. So an action needs an event, and the events can be, clicks or double clicks, etc., etc. And for any action, for any event, you can have one of these many actions. But we're not going to do any of that for this video. I'm just going to make it required and click submit. And I'm going to go back into the flow action. So now that we have our section modified, in this validation tab, I went ahead and I created this validate review case info rule. What I did here is I added this review rating, and all this is looking for is making sure that it's required, so it cannot be a null value. This ratings field was not required from the UI point of view, so if I reopen the sections tab here, right, the review rating does not have that required asterisk. And on our third tab, we have our pre-process. So again, our pre-process is what happens when the flow action is launching before the screen, appears. And the post-process is what happens once you click submit on the flow action. So the pre-process can help in a lot of ways. If you need to set a lot of default values, here's a great way to add them. And what's great about it is that, a flow action is specific to an assignment. So if you need to set some default values during one assignment, you would set it in that flow action for that one assignment. So if I open up this pre-process data transform, I'm setting review comments to the current timestamp, which for PEGA is a date string in GMT. The review notes I'm setting to my username, and I'm just removing anything in the review outcome. And if I go to my post process, again, same naming convention, review case info post process. What I'm doing is I'm setting the review comments, which used to hold the timestamp of when the assignment was launched. I'm adding pre-process date time is that timestamp, and then post-process date time is now the current timestamp. So it's going to capture both timestamps, when it was open and when it was completed. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a new case. Case. Go ahead and click submit here. I'm going to refresh this and open the assignment. So click begin. If you notice, we have our timestamp here, right? It's in GMT time. We have my name. We have required outcome as required. So there's, validation at that point. And rating does not show a validation. So if I were to refresh this just to get rid of that error, and I try to click submit, we have this error here, this alert that says this cannot be blank. So I'm going to put test here. Now when I try to click submit, it should throw me another error, which it does, because we added this validation on review rating that it cannot be blank. So I'm going to add another value here. I'm going to go ahead and copy this timestamp. I'm going to click submit. What should happen now is that the post process will run. And if you notice here, the review comments was updated to our old timestamp and our new timestamp with these strings, appended there. So this is exactly what happens when you launch and complete a flow action. A few more items that we can quickly talk about are the buttons. So the buttons that come default on a flow action, I would highly recommend to keep those. If you need to rename them from submit to something else, you can do that here. Click on customize button labels. So this could be, again, I'll put my name here as the submit button. I'll click save. I will quickly relaunch one of these. Give it some junk data, click submit. Click refresh. Go into the assignment. And if you see that the submit button is now Daniel. Another thing to note here is the pre-process does not just run once. It runs every time the flow action is launched. So I've opened this flow action. I'm going to click save. I'm going to copy the timestamp. I'm going to close out of it. And then I'm going to reopen it from here. If you notice, the timestamp was updated by about 36 seconds. That's because even though this already had a value and I already clicked save, the pre-process is still running. So the pre-process will override whatever is in this review comments. So I'm even going to put Daniel comments. I'm going to remove the timestamp completely. I'm going to click save. I'm going to go ahead and just cancel out of here after I've saved. I'm going to go ahead and click begin. And if you notice that the timestamp overwrote the string that I added in the last scene. So again, outcome is required, so this is required, and review ratings is also required. I'm going to go ahead and click on my name, and this went on to the next stage. So what really drives the flow action is, again, the business requirements. If you need a lot of default value settings before something is open, or if you need a lot of logic after you click submit, then this is a great way of doing that. Definitely the validation is a great way of doing that, because you might not always want a field to be required, but if you add a validation on a certain assignment, then it will only validate that field at that point in time. So these are all great reasons why you should always try to utilize the most out of flow actions and not try to do some custom solution that will be hard to maintain in the long run. So I hope this video helped give some very basic information on flow actions, very basic information on sections, and very basic information on creating a little bit more of a dynamic case In my next video, I'll definitely be going over more about the sections, a lot of ways to make a section, a lot neater and maybe a little bit more dynamic. I'll show how to populate a drop-down through different sources. And yeah, if you guys have any questions with anything I'm going over, definitely leave it in the comments section. I'll be creating a lot more videos and posting them as I make them. Thanks, everybody.